Hey out there, this is James LoMenzo, and I'm with my buddies Eric and Jeff, and you are listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast. Let's go.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios,
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any pod catchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, soon to be coming back to downtown Davenport, Iowa. We would like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for letting us use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
James LoMenzo
of Firstborne,
formerly of White Lion,
formerly of Megadeth.
Could keep going.
We could
formerly of David Lee Roth.
Yeah, we could just keep going and going, but we're not going to do that.
No.
Nonetheless, what a fantastic interview James was.
Yeah, it was fun, and kind of get a little reminiscent in there and get a little blubbery when I start talking about White Lion because I'm a big fan.
Absolutely. If you're not familiar with Firstborne, he's collaborating with Chris Adler, former drummer of Lamb of God.
Yeah.
We got a new lead singer from India. We're not going to dare pronounce his first name because we'll slaughter it. But nonetheless, we've heard little tidbits from it. Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to hearing more from this band.
Absolutely. So let's not wait anymore. Let's get to this interview.
Good night.
Good night. Hey, James. Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Hey, James. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, fellas, how you doing today?
Fantastic. So, first of all, I want to apologize to you about trying to correspond this during some family trials and tribulations, so I apologize for all that whole mix-up.
No apologies necessary, man. This is, life does what it does, and so I appreciate your patience with all this, and let's move on.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're excited to have you.
Yeah.
So you have some exciting news to share with us. Your new endeavor, Firstborne. Can you share with us and to our listeners some of the details of this new band?
Sure. Firstborne, a couple of years back, I went on a run with we call it the All-Star Band, although it's mostly some stars, the band Hail. What that is a friend of mine, Mark Abatista. Some of you might remember him from our run around the world on The Amazing Race. He's been a friend of mine and a co-patriot and a lawyer and everything else for years. And so I went on The Amazing Race with him. But before that, we used to run around in this band called Hail, which Dave Ellefson used to play in. And what happened was I kind of crossed, after Dave went back to Megadeth, Mark called me up and said, well, we've got gigs booked. Why don't you be the bass player now? And so that's what we did. And we played with a lot of guys over the years. But anyway, to cut to the whole Firstborne thing, the last time we were out, we went to Bahrain and to Dubai. And that's the beauty of that Hail band, is that we basically get 4 or 5 guys together, throw guitars over our shoulders and go to the farthest corners of the world and bring the metal to the clubs. It's great. I mean, the first time I did it, we went through Siberia on the Trans-Siberian train, so it's an adventure for the band, and it's just a great thing for the fans all over the world. Anyway, so we did this last one, and the drummer that was available was Chris Adler.
Yeah.
Who I'd met on the Gigantour with when I was in Megadeth when he was with Lamb of God, And we were kind of like a high hello basis back then because there was a lot of bands on that tour. So we just kind of go in, and I found all the guys in that band charming. I thought Chris was not only an amazing drummer but just a gentleman. And so I was excited to go and do this run with him with Hale. And so I got to meet him there, and we got to spend some quality time together and get to know each other a little better and play some different kinds of music together. And he's a great drummer, so we had a great time. We made some great music. And as things went on towards the end of it, I couldn't help but ask. I said, well, what are you going to do now? Now that you're not in Lamb of God, I'm sure everybody's tried to ask him that question.
Sure.
And, because I'd been in that situation probably my whole career. I'm always going from one band to the next, so it's definitely, it's like, because I also wanted to give him some positive vibes and say, I've done pretty good just doing what I do. So, it should be great for you too. But he told me, he said, I don't know what I want to do. I just want to put together a band that has fun and makes music. And I said, well, that's great. And then he says, do you have Warren DeMartini's number? which kind of, I didn't, because I always, I think that, he's a younger guy than me. And so it didn't make sense that he would love that stuff as much as I do, because that was kind of my time frame. But he's a throwback. He loves all that 80s, let's call it big hair stuff, for lack of a better term. And so I said, yeah, of course, I'll give you Warren's number, no problem. And so I said, by the way, if you need a bass player, I'd be interested in playing, recording some music with you too. And he seemed, genuinely like into it. Like I guess he was kind of afraid to ask for whatever reason. I don't know what that is. But next thing I know, I'm getting on a plane going home, and I start getting this music on my phone. It's all this stuff like, what do you think of this? And tell you the truth, it was just this weird kind of video game music. It wasn't necessarily rock or metal or anything. It was just this amalgam of really interesting sounds, but I recognized it as the kind of stuff you put behind video games. And I thought to myself, is he fucking with me right now? And so, but I answered him honestly. I said, this is really creative. Is this what you're thinking of doing? And he goes, no, this is a guitar player guy that I play with. He does all this music, and I really I like him. And so his name is Myron. And, as time moved on, okay, so he went and did some clinics, and I came home. And before I know it, I start getting all this music. I'm introduced to Myron, and he starts sending me all this music. And Chris starts sending me drums with that music. And so we just start throwing down music on computers, because at this point, we all got kind of sequestered and taken off the road anyway. And so started making some music, and really it started coming together in a very organic, kind of amorphic way. Like everybody just kind of did what they did together, and it seemed to make a really interesting sound. So the next thing is I get a call from Chris, and he's in India, and he goes, I found our singer. Nice. Now, first of all, I wasn't really aware that we were making a band at this point. I thought we were just making music. So I was thrilled, and I said, oh, okay, we have a band, and now we have a singer. Great. And this is Girish Pradhan, and he's in a popular band in India. But anyway, he was assigned to Chris with his band as kind of a backup thing while Chris was doing clinics out there. And so, sure enough, I heard this guy's voice, and I thought to myself, my God, he has a limitless voice. Yeah, I mean, he can sing everything from, like, he could be a guy from Judas Priest, or he could be Ronnie James Dio, or he could be like the blues guy from Bad Company. He has all those characters to his voice. And anybody from the 80s, if that's what you're looking for. And so he started throwing down stuff and putting together some lyrics with a bunch of the guys. And all of a sudden, we've got this EP. And that's kind of the shorter, there's a longer tail to it all. But we just started trading files over the internet. And that's how this band came together. We haven't been able to get into a room together since it started. Wow.
Yeah.
That's very, very unique story. As far as you kind of answered the question as far as the collaboration process is going so far and with the band. But how do you compare and contrast? And I guess maybe not look at it as in like COVID-19 times, but how you've collaborated with this set of musicians opposed to things that you've done in the past.
Well, this is it's unique, but it's not unique to me. A lot of guys like me, and you can find them. The internet is filthy with them. Okay. We musicians who've been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years, and that's no lie. We try to make a living doing this. And so what we do is we offer our experience and services on the internet as players. You can hire us. You can get in touch with us and hire us and put us on your record. And I've been doing that for a number of years because, I'm in bands, I'm out of bands, I start different businesses. And so first of all, I enjoy doing it. No lie. I mean, I get to play on some really great music that a lot of people will never get to hear or aren't aware that's there. I mean, all kinds of styles. And so, I've gotten really good at getting people's styles and putting my bass to it, and making it sound like we're in the room. That's the skill set to that, actually not only just getting good tones, but interpreting what the music is and getting it out into the music so that the person, when they finally get, my bass part back, they go, oh my God, that's what I had in mind. That sounds like what I wanted. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So in the case of this is a very weird thing because I just basically reacted without any precognition of how I should be playing. Okay. And basically played from my gut the way I play. Okay. And I kind of recognized that from Myron on his guitar and from Chris. Chris can play pretty much anything, and he can probably do it 5 times faster than anybody else, So I thought this is interesting. We can respect each other's styles, and we can still slather our personalities over it. And it seemed like the more we did it that way, the more it gelled together in a very interesting way.
Oh, so cool. How would you label this new endeavor? Would you consider it a one-off type project, or do you look at this as maybe a long-term thing?
No, we all jumped in 2 feet first. I mean, just because of the results were so inspiring. I mean, we have this intramural joke with the band that maybe we shouldn't get into a room together because it's going so well. Yeah. But circumstances keep us at this. But no, we've the only thing that's stopping us is not being able to go and tour it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're ready. We have enough music. We certainly we all have the energy, and we're all. Some of us are young enough to go out and keep doing it. So, I'll go along with the rest of those guys. And, we're enthusiastic about this. You don't really get that. A lot of people put these bands together and they contrive what it's going to be. This is so far from that. And that's what's getting back to your last question. That's what's so exciting about this, because I can't compare it to anything else. There's no prescription for this. We just make music together, and we really enjoy the music we're making. And we see it's unique. And, oh my God, we know it doesn't sound exactly like Lamb of God or any other band any of us has been in, but it sounds like us. So that's Firstborne.
Yeah,
fantastic.
and it's really cool. I've liked what I've heard so far in your self-titled EP, and then you had a couple singles out there. Also, you do a cover of "Separate Ways" by Journey.
Yeah, now strap in, man. Put on your safety belts because we got a couple of more songs coming up
awesome.
by the end of this month.
Very cool.
While Firstborne is new, your resume in the rock business is so large. What was the motivation to start a new band from ground zero like you have?
You know what? There was no motivation. There was no plan. Like I said, I like Chris.
Yeah.
We got along great. He's a really wonderful person. And aside from that, he's a stellar drummer with his own style. And he's one of the top new drummers, which, for this old dog, that's a new trick. And so I would, if Chris had called me up and said, yeah, we're just going to put some songs out and we're done, then I'd say, that's great, because I do that with a lot of people. But in this case, Chris was like, he's going, well, let's do a band with it. And you know what? It's time for a new band. Why not?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's simplex, very simplex. Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
Is there any plans to do any physical product, or is it just currently digital right now?
We can't do a damn thing until the world opens up. But for the time, and again, we're separated by geography. So this is all out of pocket. We don't really have we haven't really signed with a label or gotten any kind of support. Okay. So based on all that, we did the video for Sacred Lights, and I did that right here, just at home. I have a video production company, so edited that together, and we just basically shot ourselves on cell phones and tried to make it look like we were together, so people can get that kind of feeling on it.
Oh, so cool. This is kind of a little bit of a different question as far as the state of album sales or what they are, and we talked to many of artists that have a different take on, releasing song, individual song as far as a single, or releasing things in an EP, 5-6 song EP, or more and more artists are still standing by, hey, let's stick with the full length album. As far as even outside of this band, where is your thought process now as far as when releasing new material? Do you still prefer, hey, we got to release a full album, or how does it work for you?
You know what? I'm on both. I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm on both sides of that fence. Okay, when I was a kid, before I could actually play an instrument, I was delighted to go and pick up a 45. 45 is for you young kids out there. It's a little circular 7-inch disc with a giant hole in the middle. And if you didn't have the right player, you had to get a little thing. You had to put a little tab in there so it would fit on the spindle in the middle. But anyway, that's my geography lesson for now. But I loved singles when I grew up. I mean, I used to listen to AM radio, and AM radio was wonderful because you'd hear all kinds of music, stamped right next to each other. You'd hear and this is in real time when I was that age, okay? So you'd hear the Beatles right next to the Rolling Stones, right next to Ray Charles, right next to Frank Sinatra, and I can go on. And so that, to me, that appealed to me. Like there's all these different styles of music coming at you at one time. Now, having said that, as we moved into the 70s and 80s, when albums started actually saying things, right, I guess right after Sgt. Pepper's, when you started making a statement with a whole collection of music, there was something almost spiritual about that. That was a church of sorts. You'd pick up an album and you'd go from cover to cover and you'd listen to that album half a side. And I mean, we used to just lay on our beds, not individually in our rooms, and really get lost in these albums, especially when bands like Pink Floyd came around and stuff like that, where it's really deep stuff.
I remember studying the liner notes and the lyric sheets. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that was an experience, and like I said, it was a sort of a religion, that got tossed out when MTV came along and lowered everybody's attention span, along with everything else. So I've been in this game long enough to realize that things don't always stay the same. I've had this conversation with the guys in John Fogerty's band, and we're all older fellas, and right now, we're kind of at that place where, let's say, the jazz guys were. Certainly not playing wise, but in the 50s and into the early 60s, guys like Miles Davis. I mean, Coltrane. They were superstars, man. They couldn't sell out arenas because they didn't do that back then, but they could sell out theaters and big clubs, and that was as big as you could get. And record sales were crazy. You make a lot of money doing that. And then that time came and went. Then rock and roll came in and nudge that out. Was rock and roll necessarily better music? That's according to taste, but I can tell you this, as far as depth of musicality, I would go with jazz any day. But that's what happened. So now I see, where we're at right now, this day, I see a lot of looped, canned music, which I don't mind. I mean, I like it. It doesn't really speak to me the way the other music has, and that's just personal taste and time, But, maybe rock and roll is at that place now. Maybe there's just people who still love rock and roll for, its raw vitality. And then there's a whole new group of people who are moving somewhere else. So, it's not a terrible thing, but it's kind of where we're at right now. And I don't mind the concept of getting back to putting things out in singles. So all this music can live amongst each other, and then people can kind of will out what they want.
Oh, fantastic.
Nice. Take a little, if you don't mind, we'll take it in a little different direction and go back into some of your past works here. You've been mentioning jazz a few times. I read your first band, Empty Sky, I think, from the 70s, had elements of jazz in it. And then I discovered, spawning off of the David Lee Roth, you did an album with a couple of guys you played in with that band, Hideous Sun Demons.
The Hideous Sun Demons. Yeah, that was a wonderful project.
Yeah, there was some cool stuff on there. Now, is that just a one-off project? Do you ever plan on doing anything like that again?
I was actually thinking of calling Ray now because, we're sitting around and I'm going, well, what else could we do? But the Hideous Sun Demons was a really cool thing because I think at that point, Ray spearheaded that because I think he just wanted to get his drumming out there, and he was doing it from a different point of view. And so we were in David Lee Roth's band together. It was Ray and Toshi Haiketa, who's second guitar player in Dave's band at that point. And so, Ray said, well, I'm doing this thing with Toshi. Do you want to play bass on it? And I said, well, what is it? It's a kind of a jazz rock fusion thing. I said, I've always wanted to do that. Let's do that. And so that we rehearse with Dave, and then we'd stay on, or we go to Ray's house, and we just kind of jam out these tunes. And from that came the Hideous Sunbeam. We just recorded it on the fly. And I think that's a really cool, interesting record. And fun fact, the song The Mummy on that, if anybody ever looks into that record, was probably the song that got Dave Mustaine interested in me, come to think of it.
Okay.
Oh, so cool.
Nice.
Well, speaking of your resume, a few years ago we had Brian Tichy as our guest, and he was very great storyteller, very interesting guy to talk to. And he had spoke candidly about the 1994's Pride and Glory album with Zakk Wylde. Jeff and I just goo over that album every time we hear it. I guess the frustrating thing on my end, and I can't speak for Jeff on this one, maybe you can. I always thought, oh my God, this album is so fantastic. I cannot wait for the second Pride and Glory album to come out, and it never did. And then the evolution of Black Label Society, whatever. But can you kind of touch upon the creation of that album, and why did it not spawn more Pride and Glory-ish type albums?
Oh, okay. I can easily. I think I'm the catalyst for most of that. That was, you have to understand, Pride and Glory was Zakk. I met Zakk on tour with when White Lion was opening up for Ozzy Osbourne, and I think we did a three band show with Vixen was the opener, White Lion was the middle band, and of course Ozzy was the closer. Mm-hmm. And so, White Lion had been out for a bunch of years already. And, we were at that point where we were doing business. We weren't really getting that nuts together as far as the band goes. We were doing business, which was, that's kind of, you get to that point, it gets to be kind of a drag, because it's like every day you're punching a clock and getting up there and doing it. Right. Not to say it was terrible, but that's where we were at that point. So when I met Zakk officially, we just hit it off together because he was I was bored, and I was looking for something interesting to do, and he was a wild man, so, we just kind of started hanging out together, and, Greg D'Angelo joined along, but for some reason, Zakk and I kind of got stupider together. So, I mean, we'd show up at arenas and basically create havoc backstage just out of pure boredom. We weren't really good drinkers back then, but we did our share. But, that wasn't the reason. We were just idiots, right? And so we got along great. And, we started doing these jam sessions on the road. Like after we play one of the big arena shows, we'd go out to a bar and, we'd try and find a bar where there was bands playing. And most of the time, they'd be pretty excited to hand their guitars over to us because, they go, oh, my God, it's the guy from Ozzy Osbourne, it's the guy from White Lion. Yeah. And so they'd let us play, and it would always turn out like they regret it because we wouldn't give the instruments back. We'd just play the night out until the club owner said, please get the fuck out. We got to close.
Nice. And
so, so we did that for the rest of the tour pretty much. And then when we got back to L.A., Zakk was like, let's keep doing it. Let's keep going. We'll go to the Coconut Teaser and we'll go to the Viper Room or whatever it was called back then. And that's what we did. So we started just taking gigs left and right. And just basically most of it was a lot of cover music, a lot of kind of Allman Brothers and ZZ Top and whatever we could think of playing in a three-piece band. Yeah. And as we did that, I mean, Zakk and I really loved playing because, I'm a really good three-piece jammer. And so that really kind of kept it small and gave Zakk a lot of space to just overplay like he loves. and we had, I love overplaying too, by the way. And we had Greg D'Angelo playing drums. And so, one day he goes, I was doing some demos. I had like a little 8-track cassette machine, believe it or not, 8-track cassette machine. And he'd come over to my house and we do a bunch of these songs. I got the song today. So we'd work on it together. And I would record it for him, and we had some pretty good results. Which goes to show you that if somebody's a really good player like Zakk, you could record a demo on a 8-track cassette machine. It'll sound good. So he takes it around and he gets signed like that. Like Geffen's like, okay, we love this. What is it? And before we knew, it was Pride and Glory, and all that. So through all kinds of happenstance, it turned out being Brian Tichy on the record. And so so getting to your point, I'm sorry I digress.
No, this is great stuff. This is fantastic. Keep going.
I think it's all interesting, but so the coolest thing about that band, and I wish every band in the world can do it, including Firstborne, but we can't, is we just rehearsed the shit out of those songs. We got into a rehearsal place and we spent, 3 or 4 hours and just banged out the songs, practice them. We did that for a couple of weeks, right? Mm-hmm. And then we booked the studio and went up to Seattle at the late Rick Parrish's place. He was wonderful. Yeah. And, we started to record up there. He had a great studio, huge Neve. I mean, he was doing a lot of that Seattle stuff at the time. The record company was pumped. First night of the recording, Rick takes us out to go and have this is nothing says as sacred or whatever, so we'll just go for it. So he takes us out for drinks and dinner at just some little place in Seattle. And so we're getting at it. And for some reason, I couldn't even tell you what was going on. It's probably the alcohol. But Zach and Brian start getting into it. And by getting into it, I mean, they start challenging each other. And I thought they were just kidding, but the alcohol said otherwise. And so we leave the place and they start fucking brawling out in front of the restaurant. And now we were in Seattle. We were this restaurant was on kind of a hill, like one of those San Francisco looking hills. Mm-hmm. And the two of them were rolling down the hills, going at each other. And this is the first time I'd seen this. But these guys are both from Jersey, so I figure that's a Jersey thing. All right. So, yeah. But anyway, I looked and I saw Rick Parrisher. He's total passive. This beautiful person. He was in horror. He couldn't figure out what he'd gotten himself into. Mm. And so, so we ended up going to the studio, and as time went on, Rick was kind of he couldn't really figure out what was going on with us, but he set us up. He got us sounding great. And then I guess he got a cold somewhere along the way. He just didn't come in. And it wasn't he was shirking. He said he wasn't well. So it was just us and his engineer. And we basically just recorded that thing for the most part, on our own. At least we did the basic tracks. And so what we would do is every day we'd go in and we'd knock out 3 or 4 takes of the songs on that album. And we just run through 3 or 4 and that would be it, and we'd play it all together. It wouldn't be overdubs and all that stuff because it was basically still a 3-piece band. And we'd go back to the house we were sharing out there. And a lot of the fighting had stopped by then because I think that was just a one-up. But, we got back to the house and we'd all listen to it. We'd all we'd get a little... We get a little boned up, we get a little high, and we listen to the music. And this happened every night. We look at each other and go, my God, it's too fucking fast. We ruined it, man. Oh, man, we got to hit this tomorrow. And then we get up the next day, brushing our teeth, having breakfast, whatever, And we'd listen to it one more time, and we go, man, that's absolutely fine. So, what is wrong with that? So basically we would pick one of the 3 songs and we didn't have to re-record any of them. We just kind of kept moving. So we got those basic tracks done in less than a week and a half. And, we just had a great time recording that, as I recall. And that was it. I mean, that's the bulk of what I can tell you about that.
Well, the end process of it, fantastic listen, fun listen, just a fun album to listen to. It takes me back to my undergrad days when I was away at school, listening to that album in my dorm room. Hence, it made me salivate and want more. Yeah. And we just never got it. Was it a preconceived notion that, hey, we're just going to bang this album out together, we're going to get it done with, and then whatever happens type thing? Or was...
No, we hit the road. We had big plans for that. We hit the road immediately. We went right out to, right. First gig we played was at the Donington Festival, right? And there was a lot of controversy about us opening it up because that's a somewhat coveted spot, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And so we played that, and we were doing well. I mean, the crowd was going for it. You know, it was like a half and half because, you know, that the whole thing, it's not like that anymore. But, you know, that was a very that was a huge, like, festivals used to really mean something back then. So you had to kind of work your way up, like you had to earn your stripes to get on that thing. And I think our manager at the time was managing Guns N' Roses, so he kind of bullied us into that spot, which, you know, if you look at the Led Zeppelin history, that's not unusual. And we did kind of see we saw ourselves as potentially being a band like that, where, you know, we could probably play any kind of music and just keep moving, you know, and like bully our way into it. And because that's the way we played. We just belligerently played over each other, you know. So we opened that thing. We did fairly well. And then the promoter was like, you know, we went off and, you know, some people were saying encore, you know. So we go off and the promoter goes, go up there and play Sweet Home Alabama. Right. And so, you know, we just finished playing one of our like multi 20-minute jams. Yeah. And so you can imagine, like you come out with that, and the crowd was. It reminded me of Spinal Tap with the puppet show. Like a guy had his thumbs down. People were going for beers. You know, like we kind of lost them at the end of that. And at the end of that, we're like, we shouldn't have played. You know, Alabama. What the fuck?
Were you managed by Alan Nevin? Is that what you?
No. We were managed by, what was his name? Come to me in a second. Sorry, slipped out of my head.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. All right. Well, off to the next question. 2013, 2014, you participated in a project called X Drive with Keith St. John. Can you give our listeners a little more of an insight of that project? I did a little research on it, but not a lot of people know about that project. Can you kind of shed some light on it for us?
Well, since nothing's shocking at all, let me put it to you this. All right, let me put it to you this way, fellas. That band was not a band. That's one of those projects that I do when I record for people. Mm-hmm. And so I've done a few projects and bands. I played with Keith St. John with George Lynch, and he's just a fantastic singer. I love Keith. Anyway, I wasn't even aware he was part of that project. A fellow named Eric Bruner calls me up, and he goes, "I've got a deal on Frontier's record." And I say, "Okay, fine. Who are you?" And he goes, well, I'd love you to play on my record. And I said, well, send me some of the music and let me hear it. And so he sends it to me, and I said, you know what? You have a real talent for writing 80s style, like real 80s style metal. This is good. And so, you know, I didn't think he was the best guitarist in the world, but I didn't think he was the worst. I think it was just fine. And so, you know, I found out later on that Keith St. John was going to be singing, mm-hmm. and he had another drummer who sounded fine to me. And so, you know, I basically just set up my usual thing. I said, okay, I get X amount of dollars per song. And I remember he was a real go-getter, and I was concerned about that. So I made him sign a contract saying, you know, I'm not part of this band. You're just paying for my tracks. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you can have my permission to promote me, but you just can't promote this as a band. Okay. And so, so anyway, I start recording the stuff, and he starts sending it back going, no. Could you take all those notes out and play eighth notes? And so after a while I started getting, I've done Pride and Glory and all these other bands. And I started saying, have you even heard my playing? I mean, I'll do it. It's not a problem. As a matter, you know, I'll play anything you want. But I thought you hired me because you wanted me to do my thing, you know. And so, yeah, so I cleaned it all up for him and made it rather generic. And he did sign that contract. And so later on, you know, Eric St. John called me up and goes, well, what do you, and, you know, there was all this go back and forth about what's going on behind the scenes and stuff like that. And, you know, Eric was in the same, Keith St. John. Keith was in the same boat. He goes, no, I'm just hired to sing on his record. And so, you know, we were both, it's funny. So, you know, he goes, well, would you do that? You know, would you go on tour with me? And I said, no, I won't go tour with you because it's not a band, you know? And then, you know, he's very insistent. I really like him, but it's a lot. Okay. So, you know, then I'm doing a video. Would you do that? And I said, I'll help you do a video. That'll be fine. He goes, would you appear in it? I said, yes. He goes, I will pay you. And I said, that's even better. Okay, good. So, And so I kind of helped them, I got them together and got them dressed up just right, loaned them my jacket and all that. I said, this is the way you do, this is the way you look this way. And so, it's good stuff. He's a real go-getter. He sold it to Frontiers, and that's it. That's X-Drive. I wish there was more to it, but they're no Firstborne, I'll tell you that.
Very entertaining, though. Very entertaining. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm a big fan of Sweet and Lynch. You played on with Michael Sweet, George Lynch, yourself, and then reunited with Brian Tichy, or Ticky. How you say it?
Tishy.
And 2 albums there. I think I've heard. Is there rumors that another one? Are you working with them again?
I don't know what they're doing. When the phone rings, it's like the bat phone. I have this phone, right? It's in the corner of my room. And it's got on the middle, it's like an old fashioned one. So in the middle, it's got a peace sign, and on the handle part, it has a cross. And so when those 2 lights light up at the same time, then I know it's time to do another Sweet and Lynch record.
It's so funny that you say that, because we had interviewed George Lynch a few years ago. Yeah. And it was a very interesting interview because he was outside in his backyard cleaning up dog poop as he was talking to us. So the Nothing Shocking podcast and dog poop, I don't know, whatever. So my old co-host at the time had asked him, he had said, what are the plans with Sweet Lynch? Is this going to be an ongoing thing? And George says to him, he's like, if I want to make that kind of music again, I think I'm just going to rejoin Dokken and go from there. And kind of like, okay, that was a weird comment. And then so we're like, okay, I guess the Sweet Lynch thing is done and over with. That being said, then we read an article that George Lynch made a comment that Sweet Lynch possibly could make a 3rd album. I'm going, hold on, just a month ago he told us that was never going to happen again. Yeah.
So you were talking to George.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So that made no sense, but whatever. I don't. Go ahead.
George is a wonderful friend of mine, but he's an enigma, and that's the most charming part. One of the most charming parts about him is that he just, the way the wind blows for him, it's a vortex. It's wonderful. So you never know what he's going to do. I will tell you this: he's one of the greatest guitar players that I've ever seen, close up, away from, or otherwise. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people figure, well, it's still that Dokken stuff, or he's just a flash in the pan. Man, that guy can play anything. Yeah. He's just amazing.
Yes, he can. I tell him we must have had a great impact on him because he's like, hey, pardon me while I do this interview while I'm cleaning up dog poop. We're like, oh my god. So I don't know about Jeff, but I have a couple more questions for you.
Let me just say before you go, I can't while I'm in the neighborhood, because the great thing about that Sweet Lynch project is Michael Sweet. I've worked with him at least 2 or 3 times, and 2 of them were the Sweet Lynch project. But man, I met him back in the '80s when we toured together with White Lion, and he is just the most amazing musician. He's a great songwriter, great guitar player, amazing vocalist, and just a fantastic producer. And so it's the quadfecta. He's got it all. And so I'm a huge fan of his. I just want to say that out to the world while we're here.
Oh, absolutely.
But that might not be shocking. Go ahead. Next question.
Well, he was on the podcast years ago when we first started it up, and to this day, the Michael Sweet interview is still the most downloaded interview we've ever had on Nothing Shocking. So go figure that one. But James LoMenzo is going to change all that, right? Yeah. So
I'm gunning for you, Mike. I'm gunning for you.
This is kind of a little bit off scripted, but as far as the state of the rock business and the popular culture of it, of what rock and roll is or was. Always keep us kind of searching of the sound of rock music, and we've had many artists that have expressed to us that they feel as though, and maybe this with COVID-19 will also kind of give us a renaissance in the rock and roll music, in the rock scene, in the popular culture. Do you ever see rock and roll music as to be the staple of popular culture once again? Do you ever see it kind of going back to that era of saying, hey, this is what's trending now. Rock and roll music is back at the forefront of pop culture.
You know what, man? That's a great question. My crystal ball is broke this week, but looking back, really from my heart on out, I have to say that I don't think it's impossible. I think what happened was, again, I got to look through the transom of my, of my existence, like where I came from as a inspired young man until, a grizzled old veteran. I've been through this whole thing for a long time, but I've always been a fan of music, and a lot of different kinds of music. It occurred to me, one of the things that worked so well about rock music in the 60s and 70s was we started getting away from the crooner voice. We started getting away from, before that there was probably, if you jump back to the 20s and 30s and you listen to those Rudy Valley kind of voices, right? Nothing like they don't sound like real people do, emoting. I think what happened in the 70s and 80s was people started singing from their heart and sounding like themselves. Okay. And then right on the tail of that was just 6 strings, a cable, and an amplifier and a speaker, not a lot in the way of that. And so there's something very raw about hearing those two elements together, which I think, along with, of course, drums, So, when you put that and you focus that on the mix, there's something really pure about that, which kind of, which made rock and roll what we, kind of knew it was, right? Then we went through the 80s. I have to say, I was really disappointed when we got to the 80s because the technology of it, all of a sudden a bass drum sounded twice as big as it should, and even bigger than the Led Zeppelin bass drums, and all of a sudden the bass guitar started getting eaten up and the sound of the music started getting eaten up. That raw element that was so exciting in early rock and roll kind of dissipated, and yet the energy kind of carried through. So what I'm getting to is like, maybe there'll be, maybe people will just start reacting to real voices and real sounds again. Maybe all this, digital stuff will kind of give way one more time and people will want to hear like other people. I think that's the only hope for it, as far as rock and roll, as you and I are discussing it. But, I don't know that there's another place to take it, because once you get into electronics and you get away from, human beings banging on logs and stuff like that, it's, now we're in a different territory. How digital are we? Are we going to be interfaced with machines and then that'll make more sense to us? I don't know. We're already halfway there. We're doing it with our fingers as opposed to having it implanted.
Yeah, you're spot on. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. No, I just have to thank White Lion a little bit for my, what do you call that? My, I just drew a blank.
What, your first purchase?
Well, I was going to get to that, but my collecting, my collecting of CDs. So yeah, I kind of screwed this up a little bit, but yeah. So when I used to listen to cassette tapes and other music when I was getting started. But yeah, my first CD purchase that I remember is White Lion's Big Game, and it's so memorable to me because I bought it at the same time as a Panasonic boombox. It was like one of the first CD boombox that had CD players in it, and it was I still have it to this day. Both of them.
So cool.
Well, I have a similar story. I thought you were going to thank White Lion for getting you to third base. That's where we're going with that. I was hoping it was something more romantic than that.
Well, I kind of screwed it up because I guess I'm a big fan, so I kind of got a little mumbly there. But yeah.
Man, no, I'm thrilled.
I just go ahead.
Do you know, I can totally relate to that, because my first cassette, when cassettes were exciting from, back then, was, what was it? It was Abbey Road, right? I got Abbey Road on cassette, and consequently a Panasonic cassette player, that little 10-inch black thing that they used to have. Like if you can look it up online, kids. Yeah. But anyway, so I had a similar thing. I never met the Beatles though, so.
Oh, yeah. Well, before I ask you my last question, you brought up the Beatles thing. And so since your first cassette tape was Abbey Road, and my dad, diehard Beatles fan and Stones fan. That being said, him and I have this kind of like long argument of our favorite Beatle album. His is Rubber Soul. Mine is Revolver because of Eleanor Rigby. Do you have a favorite Beatles album?
That's tricky. I mean, if I have to say a favorite Beatles album, it's Sgt. Pepper's without a doubt. I was there when that happened, okay, kids? I was there when that happened. But, dude, that was mind-blowing. That changed everything. And, to listen to it as a young, spirited kid, I couldn't have been more than 6 or 7, I'm sure. To listen to that stuff, because it became like it was a fairy tale experience if you were a young guy. You'd go in and like each song would reinforce the one before or next, or take you to some other story place. Musically, it was kind of ahead of its time too because of all the layering. So I would say that would probably be the quintessential Beatles album, along with their first album, which also changed things a lot. I mean, they were secular, and you can say it was just populist because everybody got on the like they could have been the Bay City Rollers, except that there was no Bay City Rollers, so then you had the Beatles, right? Some people could say that, but I think they changed modern music in an indelible way. I mean, everything I do is based on something in Sgt. Pepper's or something in Meet the Beatles, Having said that, again, though, getting back to my initial thought about all different types of songs and music in an amalgam, all put together in different times and places, I can't really, thematically, I can't really pick a favorite Beatles album. I can always pick I can always pick a bunch of favorite Beatles songs. But you know what, man? There's a lot of people out there who don't care about that, and I find that really exciting and intriguing.
Yeah.
Because that leaves them untethered in some way.
It does.
I mean, yeah.
It truly does. All right, so I have one last question for you, and we've talked your ear off, so we're going to let you go. But generally, I don't like cover songs. White Lions.
And I'm the opposite. I love cover songs.
I'm not a big one. But White Lions cover of Radar Love, it was just absolutely mind-blowing. The band brought it to a sound that it really sounded like you guys were the originators of that song. It was big sounding. I guess, how did you and the rest of the band take on such a pretty much an iconic song and make it sound like, man, this song, the way that you guys brought it to the masses was, man, this is our song. It felt that way.
Yeah.
Well, I'm here to crush your dreams. So let me go on. No, first of all, the reason it sounds that good is because Michael Wagner was making us sound as good as he could. Okay, we certainly played all those notes, but he made it sound cool. It was his idea to have the motorcycle. It was actually his motorcycle. He mic'd up. There's a place where we recorded that. What was it? It was the old Warner Brothers studios called Amigo at that time. So Van Halen recorded there too. They had a garage on the side, and he used to park his Harley there, and put up a bunch of mics and recorded himself peeling out of that garage, and it sounded really cool. But aside from that, we actually played the song too. That song came together because Greg and I were kind of getting bored at the time because we were just, we had a lot of time in LA while we were working on that stuff. That was the second album, and we'd already rehearsed all the other stuff. So we were at rehearsal early before we were doing pre-production on the album, and we started just, I heard it in the car, and I always loved that song, So I just started. It's a great bass part, So I started jamming, and Greg started playing along, and then Tramp just, serendipitously kind of walked in the room, and he goes, "What is that? I love that." And I said, "Oh, that's right. I love Golden Earring. Oh, let's do it." So he started singing it, but it was really funny because he had trouble getting the swing of the song. There's a certain swing to that thing that really has to exist there. Mm-hmm. So he was kind of singing it like, "I've been riding all night. My hand is wet on the wheel," right? And it sounded like that old Cheech and Chong thing. Da, 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 da. So we laughed a while, but then we started like really getting down on it, and we thought, well, this could be cool. And Atlantic was thrilled because, frankly, they were concerned that we were going to suffer the sophomore jinx. Our second record wouldn't have had a hit on it. So they wanted to hedge their bets and figure, well, let's just do a song that people know already. So they gave us the green light, and we recorded it, and we did it the best way we could. I loved a lot of the stuff that Vito did because it really pulled away from the original in a very good way, and it definitely made it a little bit more ours. I'm still on the fence because I just love that Golden Earring version, So, but to me, if somebody says, "Oh, you can record that too," of course I want to do it,
I just for some reason, maybe it was just the age. I think I was 17 years old at the time or what have you. Yeah. It just struck me like this is a cover that sounds nothing like the original, that they made it sound like their own. When you're kind of crushing me when you, you put it in such simplistic terms, because it was really for me and obviously for a lot of other people, and maybe the video that you guys put together too. It just seemed like it was bigger than life at the time. Well,
that video was one of the best and scariest times of my life, man, because we went out to the Mojave Desert to film a lot of that stuff. And we'd been on tour, so we got off a tour and immediately went to the desert. And they had, the video guys. Cost us a fortune to make that video, by the way, which is kind of dumb, but we paid for it anyway. But I had recently changed up the exhaust on my motorcycle. It was the ZX-10 back then. So they'd shipped the bike out to the desert for me. They picked it up and brought it out, and I was barreling around on that. And so they said, "All right, here's your scene. You're going to go down this 2-lane highway fast as you can. We're going to have these 2 cars come and catch up with you, the 2 stunt drivers, and gas it up, make it look exciting, And when you get right behind these stunt drivers, they're going to be right next to each other. Beep your horn, and then they'll split, and you go right through them." And I was like, "Fuck yeah, good, let's go." So I get on my bike and I'm rolling. And, I'm a quarter mile up, and they got like a helicopter filming me and all this shit. And so I'm rolling down, then I get up to these cars and I beep twice and they make that space and I start moving, and all of a sudden they start coming together again. Oh. And I see the guy on the right who's driving kind of laughing like, "Yeah, fuck this kid. Who does he think he is?" Right. But anyway, so I do that. I blast out of there, and then we do it again. So after the second time, I go through and I do that thing, and I still had the CHP had this whole road blocked off. So it was our road. Mm-hmm. So I was like, man, this thing is supposed to do 130 miles an hour or 140 miles an hour. So I was like, let's see. So I get past these guys and I just open it up, and the thing is flying down the freeway. And all of a sudden those little lines in the middle of the freeway are turning into a solid line. That's how fast I'm going. Right. And I'm going, this is too cool. And I get behind the screen and I'm like, just nailing the thing and seeing it's getting there. And I'm looking at 124, 128. And I go, this is wonderful. And then I stop and think, you asshole, you don't have a helmet on. And so I was like, just stopped it right there. But an exciting moment. And I got to tell you, man, out of everything we've done, that was about as much fun as I probably had doing a video, without a doubt.
So cool. Jeff's got one more question for you.
Just going back to my little starstruck moment where I drew a blank on when I drew a blank on trying to remember that the White Line got me into collecting CDs is what I was trying to say. Had that ever happened to you? You've worked with a lot of different artists over the times. Have you ever had a starstruck moment?
Almost each and every time. There was a time when I was playing with a guy named Bobby Rondinelli who used to play in the band Rainbow with Richie Blackmore, and this is the most starstruck I've ever been. And so I get a call, and it was just after Christmas, and I was at home with my folks, and I was 19 years old or 20 years old or something. And Bobby calls up and goes, "What are you doing tonight?" I said, "Oh, I'm just hanging out with my folks." He goes, "You want to come out to Long Island and jam with me and Richie?" You got to understand, I'm a huge Deep Purple fan at this point, right? Yeah. And so I was like, "Fuck yeah, man!" So I'll get on the train and I'll meet you at the thing, right? And so what are we doing? He goes, "Well, it's a 3-piece band. You're singing. We're doing Hendrix songs. We're doing a couple of Deep Purple songs." So I'm like, "Yeah, dude." So I get down there, and man, I was shitting a brick, dude. I got to tell you, I've never been so. Just because Richie had that, I mean, I was young enough, but I was not that impressionable. But still, So we go into this little club, and there's like maybe 10 people in the whole thing. I mean, it's a tiny little bar, really. Yeah. And a little corner, like you'd have like some kind of mariachi band on there, and that was the stage. But I remember walking in, and I see a Marshall, like 2-speaker Marshall combo on a chair, and right next to it is this big Sony tape recorder that's twice as big as it on another chair. Now, for Richie, I used to read about this in Guitar Player. Richie used to use this as a preamp to drive it, right, and also he'd get a little slap echo out of the tape. And so, like, to me, I'd read about that in Guitar Player, so that made me even more terrified, because, like, there it is, And so Richie comes in, and I could barely say 2 words, and he gets up there, and he goes, "Oh, let's go." And we went, and I did okay. The thing is, you give me a guitar and you give me a microphone, I'll I'm never afraid of that. I know, like, that's as comfortable as I get. And so we go through the thing and we play like 7 songs, and I get off there and Richie goes to get a drink and I put my guitar down and I'm shaking because I'm realizing I just played with this guy. And I wonder if he thinks I'm shit or not, I wonder if he thinks I'm shit or the shit, so I don't know. So I go to the bar and I stand there and Richie's on his way out and he almost walks by me, and I would have been fine with that because I was so petrified, right? And he stops and he turns, he looks me right in the eyeballs and he goes, "You're actually quite good." And then he walks off.
Very cool.
And I was like, "Oh, okay, great." So there's an epilogue to this. A couple of weeks later, I was with Bobby and we were rehearsing. We had the band Bobby Rondinelli Experience or whatever it was called with Ray Gillen. And so he goes, "Yeah, I'm going down to Richie's. He does a Sunday thing where he has a barbecue and barbecue and soccer." And I was like, "I can't play soccer. I don't even know the game, So he goes, no, just come on and hang out." So we go to his place, and he's this nice little Tudor house in Long Island. And so we go up, and he greets us. And I kept thinking, like, all the way there, like, I'm not going to be an idiot. I'm just going to be cool. I'm not going to say something stupid. I'm going to be fine. And so there he is, and I go, "Hi, Richie, how you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I'm fine." And then, like, he's standing there waiting for more. And I had nothing prepared. So I was like, "Where's your bathroom, man?" And so he goes, "Oh, it's right in there, So I go in there and I go, "Fucking idiot, you fucking idiot," right? And so I go into the bathroom, and the thing that really, made my day and actually finally got me off of this was he had a gold record right over the toilet. But you could only see it if you're a guy. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, that is so cool. We are done talking your ear off. I'm sorry if we kept you on the phone for too long, but
no, man, it's my pleasure. I'm just hanging out, staying away from the general public.
Yes, so are we. Couple things. We haven't scratched the surface of your resume and things that we wanted to talk about. Would there be any chance, I don't know, maybe in the springtime we could get you for a part 2 if you're not too busy?
Out of the question. No, of course.
Because there's just so many things that you've been a part of, and people want to know other stuff that we haven't even touched. And we thought, man, you've got some stories. You're a great storyteller, by the way.
I really enjoyed this.
Well, thank you, man. Yeah. Well, I couldn't have done it if I hadn't lived it. So far, so good.
How about I contact you maybe like toward the end of March or something like that? Maybe we can try to set if COVID.
Yeah, let's do. And then I can tell you what if Firstborne's going anyway.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay, that sounds great. We appreciate that. So
sure,
this is how it's going to work out. We have, I think, like two episodes to release before yours. So we're looking at maybe about 2.5 weeks. Wouldn't you say, Jeff?
Yeah.
Jeff is the editing wizard over here, so he's in charge of all that.
Sweet.
So what we'll do is as soon as it's ready to go, when Jeff gets the download link ready, I'll send it to you immediately. You'll be the first one to get it. If you could share it to all of your media, social media, if you have any or anything like that, please share it on your website, whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna link on Donald Trump's website too, so we'll get a lot of
Great. But before we let you go, a couple things. Is there anything that we left out today that you wanted to cover that we did not cover?
No, I think that's a good amount, a good bunch of useless information that people find amusing.
Well, we're super excited about this Firstborne, and can't wait to hear more.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
all right, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate
fun.
the time
Thank
with
you
guys.
so much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
says their last goodbye.